Okay, think about the sheer amount of money moving around the globe these days, how interconnected everything is.
It's immense, truly.
Now, imagine one country announcing an investment plan so huge it could genuinely change industries. That's really what we're digging into today.
Absolutely. It's a potentially massive financial move between two, well, major global players, and it can send ripples across some really key sectors.
Exactly. So we're doing a deep dive into this ambitious plan by the United Arab Emirates. They're talking about investing $1.4 trillion, that's trillion, with a T into the United States over the next 10 years.
Wow.
And it's not just talk. This comes from an announcement by the UAE president himself, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, reported in the Economic Times.
That number, $1.4 trillion, it's just staggering. It points to a really serious long-term strategic plan. Huge implications for both the U.S. and the UAE.
For sure. So our goal today is to unpack this. What's driving this huge investment? Which sectors are really going to feel it? The report mentions tech, AI, energy, the big ones. And we also need to look at the context, you know? The report talks about strengthening ties with the U.S., particularly, it notes, during President Trump's time.
And it's crucial to remember, as the article points out, this announcement happened right at the end of President Trump's tour through the Gulf. That tour had other big moments, too.
Okay, let's start with that headline figure. $1.4 trillion over a decade. I mean, that's just a colossal amount of capital. What does that actually mean in, like, the grand scheme of global economics?
Well, it signifies a really deep level of commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And a very carefully thought-out strategic alignment. I mean, $1.4 trillion, that's bigger than the entire economy of many countries.
Yeah.
So even spread over 10 years, it's a steady, powerful flow of investment into the U.S.
The article specifically quotes Sheikh Mohammed talking about a strong partnership with the U.S., one that really grew during the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
And then this announcement lands right as Trump's Gulf tour wraps up. What should we read into that timing?
The timing is definitely significant. It suggests, well, a high level of confidence, maybe a shared vision that's solidified during that period. You don't commit that kind of money over that time frame without trust and a clear sense of mutual benefit.
Makes sense.
And having the announcement coincide with President Trump's visit, it just underlines how important both sides see this economic relationship becoming.
Okay, let's get into the weeds a bit. Where is this money going? Tech, artificial intelligence, energy. The report is clear on those. Seems logical, given where the world's heading, right?
Absolutely logical. I mean, these are the sectors driving so much global development right now. For the UAE, investing here in the U.S. gives them access to top-tier American innovation, R&D, market leadership.
And for the U.S.?
For the U.S., it's a massive injection of capital for growth in areas that are strategically vital. Win-win, potentially.
The AI part really caught my eye. The UAE wants to be a global AI hub, apparently. And the article mentions a preliminary deal with the U.S. to import, get this, 500,000 Nvidia AI chips annually, starting this year.
That is a very serious move. 500,000 advanced chips per year. Nvidia's chips are, the gold standard for training complex AI, powering those huge data centers.
So this is about building infrastructure.
Exactly. It screams commitment to building a powerful AI infrastructure. Getting that kind of computing power would massively accelerate their ambitions in AI. It's a huge bet.
But like always with this kind of high-stakes tech transfer, there are wrinkles. The article mentions security concerns in the U.S. government, worries about where the tech might end up, and the deal's under review.
Yes, and that's understandable. The U.S. government has a responsibility to make sure advanced tech, especially AI chips like these, don't end up being used in ways that harm U.S. security or, benefit strategic rivals.
Dual-use technology, right?
Precisely. It's called dual use. Civilian applications like AI services, but also potential military uses, advanced surveillance, autonomous systems, things like that. So review process is pretty standard for major tech transfers like this. Risk assessment, basically.
It's that constant balancing act, isn't it? Pushing tech forward versus protecting national security. Okay, let's zoom out again. Think about that broader Gulf tour President Trump was on, like the article laid out. This huge UAE investment wasn't the only thing happening.
No, not at all. It was a busy tour. Lots of economic stuff and some surprising diplomatic moves, too. For example, Trump visited the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Right.
And Qatar committed $10 billion to upgrade that base. That's a key U.S. military facility in the region.
And didn't Qatar also sign some big defense deals?
They did. The report mentions $42 billion in defense contracts finalized. Huge numbers again.
Wow. And it wasn't just Qatar and the UAE making big financial commitment.
Saudi Arabia was also mentioned, pledging $600 billion in U.S. investments. And Qatar Airways agreed to potentially buy up to 210 Boeing wide-body jets. So you see this pattern across the tour. Major business deals being struck.
And beyond the money, there were those diplomatic angles, too. Lifting sanctions on Syria, meeting the interim Syrian president, pushing for normalized relations with Israel. That's a lot happening on one trip.
It really is quite a mix. It suggests, a multi-layered strategy, economic deals intertwined with diplomatic goals, lifting Syria sanctions, the Israel normalization. Push it, though. Those are significant policy shifts, potentially major regional consequences down the line.
Hey, so when you piece all this together, the massive UAE investment, the other big deals from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, the defense contracts, the diplomatic moves. What's the big picture here? What does this signal about U.S. relations with these Gulf nations?
Well, what strikes me is the clear focus on the future. Tech, AI, alongside the more traditional energy and defense ties. It shows everyone's looking at the same global trends and wants to partner up in these really strategic areas.
And the scale.
The sheer scale of the money involved just hammers home how deep these relationships are becoming. But, and it's an important but, that Nvidia chip deal review. It's a reminder that these advanced tech partnerships come with complexities. Security implications always need careful weighing.
Okay, let's make this concrete for you listening in. Why should you care about a $1.4 trillion investment plan from the UAE or these other deals happening thousands of miles away?
Well, if you're interested in technology, for instance, this huge flood of cash into U.S. tech and AI, it could seriously fuel innovation, maybe lead to new breakthroughs, new companies, new jobs. You might feel the effects directly.
And economically.
If you follow the global economy, these are major shifts in investment flows. It shows strengthening ties between specific countries, which impacts trade, stability, potentially even energy prices down the road.
What about international relations?
For anyone interested in that, this highlights the complex dance between money, strategy, and diplomacy in a really critical part of the world. It's about alliances, security, economic leverage. These aren't just abstract events. They're connected threads in a bigger global tapestry that could influence everything from the tech you use to geopolitics.
Right. So wrapping up the core points, we've got this truly massive $1.4 trillion investment pledge from the UAE for the U.S., targeting key future sectors like tech, AI, and energy. It comes in the context of what the report calls a strengthened partnership built during the Trump years, and it was part of a wider Gulf tour packed with other significant economic agreements and some unexpected diplomacy.
Exactly. The huge numbers, the focus on future industries, and the backdrop of these evolving U.S. Gulf dynamics. Those are the key takeaways. It's a developing story.
So as you think about all this, maybe consider what comes next. What does this mean for the long-term trajectory of U.S. relationships in the Middle East? How will this kind of collaboration shape the global race for AI dominance? And maybe the biggest question, how do nations keep balancing these incredible economic opportunities against the undeniable security risks in our very interconnected world? Lots to mull over from this deep dive.